Alright, what's happening, dudes? How's everyone doing? It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon. We got the nice natural light coming in here through the window. I love it. So, today we are checking out the Leatherman Juice XE6. This is an old school Leatherman that they brought back for a limited amount of time. They made however many they made. They made a bunch more, and after this batch is gone, they will be gone forever. So this was on sale for a pretty heavily discounted price. There's two versions. There's the XE6, which has 18 tools, and then there's a 15 tool version, which I cannot remember the name of. It's the Juice, and then there's some other series of letters and numbers after it. I'm not sure if there's still any available at the time of when you see when you see this video, but I will link it down below if they are still available. I had to buy this just because I'm a fan of multi-tools. I carry one every day, and if this is going away forever, I wanted to have one in the collection. So we're going to take a look at it. We're also going to compare it to my other Leatherman here. Just so you can kind of get an idea of the differences in the size and the tools with the Leatherman Rebar and the Leatherman Crunch, which are my two main carry multi-tools. So let's let's compare these first just in size. You can see it's a bit shorter than the Rebar and the Crunch. But it is quite a bit thicker, as you can see there. I mean, there's 18 tools on this thing, which is, well, how many does the Rebar have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the Crunch has less. So yeah, it's a bunch of tools. It kind of makes me think of a Victorinox in a way that just the size and the way that it's kind of thick with all the tools. It was my understanding that when this initially came out, it was Leatherman's kind of response to Victorinox, kind of an alternative for people if they, maybe they didn't want a Victorinox, they wanted a Leatherman instead. This thing is cool, man. It's a medium to light use multi-tool. This would not be my primary work carry multi-tool. I'm pretty hard on my Leatherman, so this Rebar here would be my primary work carry, or the Crunch. But it's a great thing to have around the house. I might keep this in the center console of my truck. I feel like this is a good truck or car multi-tool, or just around the house. Whatever your application is, it's light to medium use. So let's open them up real quick so you can compare them in the open position. Bam, bam. There you go. So you can see that the plier heads are quite a bit smaller than the ones on the Rebar. Just not as heavy duty. And then the Crunch, you can see obviously a bit smaller. So I'm going to move these out of the way for a minute, and we're going to go through the tools on the Juice. Excuse me. And then as we go through the tools, we'll kind of compare them to some of the tools on the Rebar and Crunch. If they have the same tool, we'll compare them. So here's the main pliers. You got the needle nose, regular pliers, and your wire cutters. And then at the very back, the hard wire cutters. Fairly thin down at the tip of the needle nose, about the same as the Rebar, possibly even a little bit, well, no, they're about the same this way. They're a little bit wider this way than the Rebar, but definitely good to get into those tight places. They're not spring-loaded, so you kind of got to do this kind of deal to operate them. Pretty comfortable to hold. There's definitely nothing poking my hand, but it is a little bit blocky as you're gripping it. So no hot spots, but it does feel pretty blocky. Ergonomically, compared to the Rebar here, I'd say the Rebar is a bit more comfortable, and the Crunch, same thing. Crunch is a bit more comfortable. but you know, it's a medium use Leatherman, so you're not really going to be really bearing down on this thing anyways. So there are a couple tools accessible while it's in the open position, but most of the tools are accessible from the outside. So let's go through them. We have a corkscrew, and then we have this little guy, which is a cap lifter, and it's also a tool to be used in combination with the corkscrew. What you do is you screw this into the cork, and then you can rest this little notch right on the lip of the mouth of the wine bottle, and then kind of use that as leverage to get out the cork. Kind of cool. I don't really drink wine, but kind of cool that they thought of that. You know, never seen that before. And then we flip it around, and we have the serrated blade. Pretty good sized serrated blade, actually. You know, I was expecting it to be a little bit smaller. Let's get out the serrated blade on the rebar. Close it up. It's smaller than the one on the rebar, but it's a similar shape. You know, you got that kind of a sheep's foot blade shape. And then let's get out the one on the crunch as well, because it does have a serrated blade. It's the only blade on the crunch. Here, let me do it this way. So there you go. The serrated blade is a little bit more crunch size than rebar size. Actually, yeah, it's right about the same size as the crunch, just a little bit thinner of a blade. It's decently sharp. Feels very good. Moving on, we have a file, which is one of my favorite things of about the tool, because they have a diamond coated side. Really cool. And then they have just the regular, you know, double crisscross, whatever you call that, on the other side. And then they have the edge with teeth as well, which is great. Now, both the rebar and the crunch have files as well, so let's get them out. Here's the rebar's file. Right around the same size, actually. Yeah, they're almost exactly the same size. I would argue that this one might even be better, just because it has the diamond coated side. And then the crunch has a Leatherman, has a file as well, and it's the smallest of the bunch there. Does not have a diamond coated side. So the Juice might actually have the file game locked down, actually. Excuse me, got something in my throat. Alright, moving on. Is that it on this side? Yes. Okay, moving on to the other side. We have the plain blade, which is decent size yet again. Let's get out the plain blade on the rebar. Longer, and it's a drop point or clip point, while this one is a sheep's foot style. And then the crunch does not have a plain blade, so we don't need to get that out. So, bit shorter than on the rebar, different blade shape. I actually prefer this blade shape over the drop point here. Just a little more utilitarian, so I like this. It actually has a stone washing on the blade too, which is kind of cool. The rebar does not. I think it's a pretty decent looking blade. You can tell they kind of messed up the grind here toward the tip, but that won't really affect anything. It's just kind of cosmetic. So there you go, the plain edge. What else? We have the awl, and the rebar has an awl as well. Where is it at? Does it have an awl? Maybe it doesn't. Am I tripping out here? Oh, it does. Yeah. There we go. This is not a great, this is not a great awl. It doesn't have like a super good point on it. You can see on the rebar it's a very sharp point, and it's kind of like a chisel grind on it there. So not the best awl, but you know, I really don't use the awl ever, so not a huge deal. And then we have the scissors, which I think is one of the strong suits of the Juice here. None of my other Leatherman have scissors, besides actually the Micra here, which is a dedicated scissors. This is a big pair of scissors. If you have some Victorinox knives, you'll be able to tell that this is quite big compared to a lot of scissors on a lot of different multi-tools. And they work really well. Yep, Super working well. Super working well. So that's cool. Since I don't own any other Leatherman, work Leatherman with scissors, it's kind of cool to have some. So that's really nice. And then I think, yeah, that's it on the outside. Let's open them up. By the way, a nice click when you get them open, which I like. Like to hear the clicks. Nice. So we have 3 different sized flatheads over here. Tiny, medium, and large. They're pretty short, but that's fine. Oh, by the way, none of these tools are locking, but they do have back springs, so you hear them click into position, and it's pretty stiff. So they're pretty sturdy out there. So let's get out the flatheads on the rebar here. I think it has 2 sizes. Yeah. So we have 2 different sizes on the rebar here. And then on the crunch, we have, I think, just 1. Yeah. Just 1 on the crunch, which is pretty tiny, too. So, yeah, you could use these as pry tools or flatheads, whatever you want to use them for. Kind of cool that there's 3 sizes. I'm not sure it's totally needed, but, there's 3 sizes there, so there you go. And then lastly, there's one more tool. There's only 1 tool on this side. And it might look like there's wasted space here, but all this stuff here is actually the back springs for the outside tools. So that's how it has to be. And then over here you have a tiny little 3D milled Phillips head, which I like to see. One of my favorite parts about the rebar is its really nice 3D Phillips. This one is just a really nice, thick, long shank on it. I love this thing. This one's a bit shorter, but it still is 3D, which is awesome. And the crunch actually has a 3D one as well. So you can see that it's an important element to me to having a multi-tool, to have a 3D Phillips. So it kind of goes, big Phillips, medium-sized Phillips, and small Phillips. I mean, the head itself is pretty bulky. It's just the shank is not as beefy as the rebar, but it's actually a little bit beefier than the one on the crunch. You can see right there. So, all in all, I think this is a pretty darn good tool set. Like I said, it's medium use. You're not going to be really cranking on stuff with this juice here. But, I mean, they managed to pack, 18 tools on this thing is pretty sweet. And it is fairly heavy. And like I said, thick. It doesn't come with the sheath, which at first it kind of annoyed me, but realistically, I'm not going to be carrying this on my belt. I'm not going to be carrying it to work, which is where I always have a Leatherman on my belt. And around the house, I don't really need to have it on my belt. I can just have it in a drawer somewhere or in my truck. So, I kind of wish they would have included a sheath, just because all Leathermans should come with a sheath. But realistically, I probably wouldn't use it a whole lot anyways. I like this thing. I thought these were going to be G10 before I got it, but they're actually aluminum, which is cool. They come in a couple different colors. This is the lime green, or the moss green, I think they call it. Kind of a cool texture on that. Adds a pop of color. I think it's cool how they have the stainless side and then the colorized side. I like that it says Leatherman on the ends here. Just kind of cool. Yeah, that's about it. The Leatherman Juice XE6. Now, again, they do make this with a 15 tool version. And I'm not exactly sure what tools are omitted from this version to make the 15 tool, but it obviously is going to be a bit thinner. If this is too thick for you, there's that option as well, if they're still available, and I'm not sure on that. Like I said, I will link these down below if they are available. Well, I'll link them either way, so you can at least go and look at them and see if they are available or not. And that's about it. That's the Leatherman Juice. Let's get them all out here one more time. There you go. And should we get the micro out? He's feeling left out. Let's put him right up there. There you go. Thanks for watching, Folkaroonies. See you in the next one. Adios.